Hello everyone, it is Miss Kepley here, and today we're going to look at how to compare and contrast. So what we're going to do here is we are going to break down what these words mean, and then I'm going to give you some steps on how to compare and contrast. So let's get started. Before we begin, let's look at some key terms that we need to know and understand in order to know how to compare and contrast. So first, we have compare. And compare is just when we're looking at two or more things like objects, ideas, events, characters, and we're noticing the similarities between them. So it's like we're being detectives looking for clues to show how things are alike. And then on the flip side, on the opposite side, we have contrast. And contrast, again, if it's the flip side, it means that we're looking at two or more things, objects, ideas, events, characters, and we're noticing the differences between them. So compare is similarities, contrast is when we're really looking at those differences. So, a fun fact, we do this all the time. You are already compare and contrast masters. You just don't know it yet. So, what do we compare and contrast? Which tennis shoes to wear? Like, should I wear my Nikes today or should I wear my Adidas Sambas? It depends on the type of look I want. So, I'm comparing and contrasting those in my head. Which brand of cereal to purchase? So when my husband goes to the cereal aisle, does he buy the name brand, with Cinnamon Toast Crunch, or does he buy the bag of knockoff Cinnamon Toast Crunch? So he's comparing and contrasting price. I'm comparing and contrasting taste. And so we both have different goals there, but we are naturally comparing and contrasting. Which sports teams to pull for in the big game? Which makeup to buy at Sephora or Ulta? Do I follow all the girls on TikTok and buy the drunk elephant, or do I save some money and go for the elf? So you're comparing and contrasting what you think are the qualities of each brand. And then finally, what brand of water bottle do I carry? Do I carry the Stanley water bottle because everybody has a Stanley and they're super popular? Or do I go with the Awala water bottle because it has a lid and a straw? I don't know. It's up to you, but we're naturally comparing and contrasting these things. So I want you to take a little quick minute and pause, and I want you to think about when did you compare and contrast something in your everyday life? And what did you look at to help you make the final decision? So go ahead and pause this video, write a quick little response to show us that we all compare and contrast naturally, or to show yourself, I guess. Great, we're back, and I'm sure it wasn't super hard for you to find something that you compare and contrast in your everyday life. So great, this is something we already do, so it's not going to be very difficult. So why does it matter? If it's something we already do naturally, why am I teaching you about this, and why are we doing this in our language arts class? Is it to torture you? My students would say yes, but it's not to torture. There's a meaning behind it. There's a purpose behind it. So when we learn to compare and contrast, it's like unlocking a superpower that helps us understand the world better. So for example, if it's an election year like it is now when I am making this video, if you're of voting age, instead of voting like your parents vote, you can compare and contrast the people running for office and what they stand for, and you can understand the world better by reading different articles about them and deciding who you want to vote for, not who your parents are voting for. It might align with your parents, but it might be different because you're making your own decisions. So, doing this, it trains your brain to sort, categorize, evaluate, and understand new information like a professional. So you're basically being a grown up here when we're comparing and contrasting, and your brain's getting like a little bit smarter. So it's not just about noticing how things are alike or different. It's about really exploring and understanding lots of different ideas. So we're figuring out how they're alike and different and what that means to us as a person. And then finally, each time we compare and contrast, you're giving your brain a workout. It's making it smarter and prepared to tackle new stuff. Love it. And don't we all want to be smarter and understand the world better? Yes. So that's why we have to learn how to compare and contrast. So first, how do we compare and contrast something? Now that we know compare, looking at similarities, contrast, looking at differences, great. What do we do with it? How do we do it? What do we do with it? First, step 1. We're going to analyze what you're examining, which sounds kind of weird. Analyze, examining in one thing, but let me show you what I mean. From the text, we have to select or identify 2 or more things to compare and contrast. Basic step 1, what are you comparing and contrasting? And then I think this is super important. Why are you comparing and contrasting 2 things? So if we are reading 2 articles from 2 different scientists and they're both talking about pollution, why are we looking at this? Do we want to determine if pollution is really a problem? Because maybe one scientist doesn't think it is and maybe another scientist does. I don't know. So you have to identify why you're comparing 2 items. So here's some examples. So we could be doing it to understand a subject better, to make a decision, to develop arguments, to evaluate sources. If we're doing this with fiction, we can determine how characters have changed or how they're different from each other or how perspective changes our viewpoint of the character. So there are different things, different reasons why you're comparing and contrasting. Step 2. We're going to gather that information. So what does that mean? That means once we know what we're comparing and contrasting and why, we're going to highlight our list, major points or ideas presented in the text. So if we're, again, back to the pollution thing, if we are comparing and contrasting ideas about pollution or thoughts about pollution, these are the only points that we're focused on in the text, and we will highlight and underline those or make a list if you can't highlight. Be careful. I want you to stay focused. So if it's about pollution, we need to stay focused on pollution and just picking out those major points. So keep your eyes peeled for details that are all about the main thing you're comparing. So if it's not about the main topic, you just need to skip it. So, for example, finding out that the scientist has a YouTube channel where they talk about science experiments might be cool, but it doesn't help us compare their views on pollution. Step 3. We're going to organize those thoughts. So you get to choose a graphic organizer to help you structure your thoughts. So for comparing and contrasting, there's 2 natural graphic organizers that we can use. First is a Venn diagram, and this is great for visualizing the similarities and differences. So right here is where you will put the differences. That's beautiful. And then on the inside here is where you will put the similarities. Our next option is a T-chart, and so this is useful for listing similarities and differences side by side. So what I have my students do is write what they're comparing right here or contrasting. We write our differences right here, and then we have a little box down here at the bottom. We erase that line. There's a box that goes across both of these, so we merge it together, and we write the similarities here. And differences go up here. So it's still a T-chart, but it's kind of a modified T-chart. Let me clear that out. So that is it. This is our compare and contrast short and sweet mini lesson. If you are an ELA teacher and would like more of this, some activities to go with it, I do have this exact mini lesson. It comes with the fill in the blank notes and several little practice activities linked in the description below. If you're an ELA Unlimited member, you can find this in section 7, compare and contrast, and then just click the compare and contrast button, and it is right there for you. So if you have any questions, just let me know. That's all I have for you today. Go out there, compare and contrast so you can understand your world better. Talk to you soon. Bye.